Imagine a time when the United States tried to invade Canada and failed. It's a war most Americans barely remember, but in Canada, it helped shape national identity. The War of 1812 was not just a small border conflict. It was a brutal, confusing, and emotional struggle that decided the future of North America. Empires clashed, cities burned, and ordinary people were pulled into a war they never asked for. United States was angry. Britain was still treating America like a former colony, blocking trade, forcing American sailors into the British Navy, and supporting Native American resistance on the frontier. Many American leaders believed the solution was simple: invade British-controlled Canada. They assumed Canadians would welcome them. They were very wrong. In 1812, American troops crossed into Canada, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they faced strong resistance from British forces, Canadian militias, and Indigenous warriors led by leaders like Tecumseh. Local farmers, hunters, and shopkeepers picked up weapons to defend their land. What the Americans thought would be a quick conquest turned into a disaster. The war was brutal on both sides. Cities were attacked, villages burned, and civilians suffered. In 1814, British forces marched into Washington, D.C. and burned the White House and Capitol, shocking the American nation. Meanwhile, battles like Queenston Heights and Lake Erie showed how unpredictable and deadly the war had become. For Canada, this war became a defining moment. English-speaking settlers, French Canadians, and Indigenous nations fought together against invasion. The war created a shared sense of survival and resistance. Canada did not become American, and that fact still shapes its identity today. Many Canadians see the War of 1812 as the moment they proved they could defend themselves. Neither the United States nor Britain had achieved a clear victory. The Treaty of Ghent ended the war, restoring borders to how they were before. No land was gained, no empire collapsed, but millions of lives were changed forever. The War of 1812 left a strange legacy. America survived but learned humility. Canada emerged more united and confident. Britain realized the cost of distant wars. And Native American nations, despite fighting bravely, lost the most. This forgotten war reminds us that history is not just about winners and losers. It's about identity, memory, and the stories nations choose to remember. Beyond flags and borders, the War of 1812 was a human tragedy. Families were separated, farms were destroyed, and entire communities lived in fear. Soldiers often fought in freezing winters with little food or medical care. Many were young men who had never left home before. Letters from the front tell stories of hunger, confusion, and regret, reminding us that war is never just about politics. Over time, the war created heroes and myths on both sides. In the United States, it inspired symbols like the Star-Spangled Banner, written during the Battle of Baltimore. In Canada, figures like Laura Secord became legends of courage and resistance. These stories were passed down through generations, shaping how each nation remembers the same war in very different ways. More than 200 years later, the War of 1812 still matters. It explains why the border between the United States and Canada is one of the longest peaceful borders in the world. It reminds us how close these two nations once came to becoming one, and why they didn't. History is not just about the past. It's a warning. And this war proves that even forgotten conflicts can shape the future. The War of 1812 also shaped national identities. For the United States, it was a test of independence, proving that the young nation could stand against the British Empire once again after the Revolutionary War. For Canada, then a collection of British colonies, it helped foster a sense of unity and resistance. Local militias and ordinary citizens played critical roles, and their stories became part of a shared memory, giving Canadians a sense of pride and distinct identity separate from the United States. Battles like those at Lake Erie, Fort McHenry, and Queenston Heights showed how geography, strategy, and courage could determine outcomes. The defense of Baltimore inspired the Star-Spangled Banner, a song that would become the American national anthem. Meanwhile, Canadian victories against American invasions reinforced the importance of local knowledge and collaboration with Indigenous allies. These events remind us that wars are not only fought by generals, they are shaped by ordinary people on the ground. The war also had lasting political and economic effects. The United States realized the need for better infrastructure and a stronger military to protect its sovereignty. In Canada, the conflict discouraged aggressive American expansion, helping secure the territory's future. Trade relationships and borders were clarified, setting the stage for centuries of peaceful coexistence. In a sense, the War of 1812 created the framework for the modern North American continent. Ultimately, the War of 1812 teaches lessons beyond military history. It shows how resilience, cooperation, and understanding differences can prevent conflict from escalating. It reminds us that even small events or forgotten wars can leave a legacy that lasts for centuries. Today, Americans and Canadians share a border, trade, and culture, but also the knowledge that history's tensions can be resolved without permanent enmity. The echoes of 1812 are still visible, quietly shaping the future of two nations that once stood at the edge of war.